just decided to let that part of me shine.
Oh my god, the music is fucking amazing. I'm actually going to drop that a little bit though. So hello. Hello.
Hello.
We're Neophyte Studio. We're three writers. Oh my fucking god, the music. Okay, there we go.
You're gonna have to share your screen, Matt, because we can't see on our
Oh,
side.
you guys can just watch the stream though. There will be a
Yeah, but it'll be
slight
a
delay.
delay.
It'll be like a 2-second delay.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess you can't really share your screen. That's true.
As you can see, we're completely prepared and professional.
Of course.
We're three writers who play games. I'm Matthew Gordon. With me, I have Dylan Davis and Pinckney Benedict. And today, it's very special. We're going to be streaming Dylan's new game available on his itch page, which I will actually include a link to.
Yeah.
And Dylan, what else do you have here on your itch page?
Oh, I have a game called Cyberpunk 1977. I have a game called.
It's amazing.
I have a game called Bull Skull where you talk to a bull skull, and then a zombie man laughs at you.
Yeah.
Yes, they
And-
do.
yeah, as they do, and he tells you not to trust the bull skull. And all that game's dialogue was written with AI Dungeon. And then
Fantastic.
let's see. Oh, I made a thing in Tavore. It's like a 360-degree short film.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And and Mudman, the demo for Mudman that I didn't finish because it failed on me.
Yeah.
The later builds failed on me, so I have to go back now that I know more about Unity, try and fix it.
There we go.
And that's everything.
Well, so now we're going to be playing your newest game, Disc Jockey, right?
The Disc Jockey. Yes. This is my favorite thing I've ever made, and it's like not that long.
Fantastic. And so there seems to be something special about this. What might that be?
Oh, well, you'll see how it plays, but
Okay.
it's a mechanic that I genuinely don't think exists. I'm almost convinced. I saw a game that came out today called Unto the End, which maybe has a similar mechanic.
Sure.
Maybe. But I can't find any other game, and what I'm calling it right now is dialogue expenditure system or dialogue bullets. And basically it's a new way to interact with the game world besides shooting people, which is something that we've talked about on the stream multiple times, right?
Yeah, that's pretty ambitious. You're saying here today that we are unveiling a brand new style of gameplay that until this point,
New game mechanic that has never existed until this moment.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty fantastic if it's true, and I mean we will.
Now let me, given that I'm obviously a streaming expert.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I get confused when people say Twitch. I think they mean itch. When they say itch, I think they mean Twitch.
Yeah.
Very confusing to me, to people of my generation. But so I've now got the stream up on my browser, right? The Neophyte Studios stream.
Yeah.
But if I turn that on, we presumably we all, but at least I hear everything like 5 or 6 times.
If you turn the sound on for Twitch, you will hear it twice. Maybe we will hear it. Maybe, but I don't think so. But there shouldn't be a reason to do that. I mean, we're going to watch it on the Twitch just so there's not a double up of the window.
So do I, right. So what I'm saying is, so do I then turn off the sound on Discord?
No, just leave the sound off on Twitch.
Yeah, turn the sound off on Twitch real quick. I'm gonna jump back to the game.
Just on Twitch. Yeah.
And Dylan, if you want to turn your sound up on Twitch for a quick second, make sure we're getting game audio.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally just a song and the sound of a liquor bottle. So.
Okay. All right. Well, with that,
right, so now I'm watching. I'm now watching the Twitch stream, and I am a few seconds in the past.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Very alarming.
We've got a camera and we've got drugs, so I'm already very interested. And so the real quick, because you're not much for a 3D modeler, neither am I. So these assets, where did they come from?
They all came from the Unity Asset Store. There's a studio called Pinckney Studios, and they sell tons of asset packs
Okay.
on the Unity Asset Store, and I've bought probably 65-70% of their packs now.
Gotcha.
Just because I just like their stuff. I think, I mean, it kind of fits what I want it to do. Like I don't need like photorealism for especially for like quick prototyping stuff.
Yeah.
Because really I'm just more interested in figuring out how to make dialogue interesting. So but Cinti Studios did everything, and then all of like the gamified elements were made with Adventure Creator.
Fantastic. Any other assets or anything interesting I should know before going into this?
No, just there's the song, but that's not like that was a license. It's legal to use.
Okay, for sure.
So
all right.
it's credited.
I'm going to get started then.
Unlike me singing the bare necessities.
Yes, right.
So deeply disapproved of, I still kind of feel the wound of his disapproval.
I like the sort of like a little monk tassel.
Yeah, his name is DJ Mama. Yeah. So, okay. Actually, just before you get walking, there's a couple of things I want to say.
Yeah.
Because this is an unfinished game, I'm not going to give you too many details, but if the game says to go straight or right, just choose right, because I have not made anything for straight. So just go right.
Okay.
That's all.
Peter the meat salesman. Peter. Vomit, good to see you. I'm gonna vomit him.
Oh, nice camera.
So that reduced my...
It increased it.
Oh, okay. So 90 out of 200. And I can't talk to him anymore because I was a jerk. That makes sense.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
So booze lowers my resolve.
Yes, but it also increases your drunk,
Okay.
which changes your dialogue options. Also, right-clicking is an examine action, and left-clicking is a talk action.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that was another thing. I need to put like controls somewhere in the front.
Yeah, just for like a second, because that's really
Yeah, I know
easy.
it's hard. I just don't know how to do it. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
But far.
Looking fine. How's the droid? Vomit, didn't I tell you to back the hell off?
Lamp rabbit. Fine, looking fine. Don't go so fast. Something's read slow.
It's not his fault.
Yeah, these are running automatically.
The dialogue goes really quick. It's really
Okay,
frustrating.
so minus 100. Which...
I'm not sure I understand the math. Can you kind of go through the resolve/exasperation?
Yeah, so part of the problem, and this is something that's been very interesting, is that in the literal first playthrough that somebody else did, somehow Matt figured out how to get to -5. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah,
So-
well, I just did minus 100 when I was below.
Yeah, right. So basically, what we have in the bottom left hand or right hand corner is the resolve/exasperation meter. So the meter is exasperation. If you get it to 200, the game ends because you're so exasperated that you can't continue on with the day.
Okay.
If the meter gets to 0, you also lose because you've lost your resolve, so you can't continue with the day. But I haven't programmed in
Gotcha.
a 0 fail state. I've only programmed
So
in a
you're
200 fail state.
balancing between not doing enough and doing too much.
Yes. Yeah, so the sweet spot, you want to try and stay in 100 based on what you say to them.
Yeah.
So but I didn't program in a zero fail state. There's only a 200 fail state, so.
I appreciate you. Well, that took you way up.
Yeah.
Fucky ass Cedar. Do I have cash?
I mean, it's a thing that I'm gonna put in the game, but yeah,
Gotcha.
you do basically. Yeah, there's gonna be four modes. There's gonna be drunk, resolve exasperation, time, and money.
Gotcha.
Those are the four things you have to balance.
Gotcha. Okay, here's some cash.
Yeah, and what I wanted was a reset, like a reset state somewhere in the game in case somebody got too high and they couldn't get it back down.
Yeah.
So this is the way to do it. Because
gotcha. Back to 100.
Yeah, Bina the droider, her interaction is supposed to turn off, but for some reason it's not working, so I'm figuring that out.
Yeah.
Because I got what's his name to work, Peter the meat salesman, but not Bina the droider. Yeah, Bina.
And so this is just gonna run me through the same dialogue for now?
Yeah, it's just the same dialogue.
Gotcha. I mean, for a demo, this is a lot.
Yeah. No, it's really workable. And now is this what you're gonna enter into the contest?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a more realized version of it soon. And because right now what it's lacking is like, I mean, I kind of have like a non-concrete goal, but I'm not. Yeah, this is the straight versus right thing.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that camera change.
Yeah, I really like the atmosphere and.
Yeah, so there's like this is like a city block. There's like 6 city blocks in this map, and my plan is to get through various magic tricks to get the player to go through all 6 of them.
Oh, cool.
So there's a strip club.
It's a really, I love how kind of unified it is. Maybe I'm just
Top
unaware.
end.
But I love these stock assets and the weird stuff you can do. Like, nobody who ever made that guy thought his name would be Fucker Dobson.
Right.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
So this is the fail state.
Gotcha. Oh, cool. And just kicked me.
Yeah, so that's
Can I try that again? I want to get further.
No, that's as far as it goes.
Okay, that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, that's the final programmed fail state.
Okay.
Is getting into the club, because that's the next interaction.
You run into jerks and he.
Yeah,
And
basically you don't have what jerks needs to give you the inciting incident, essentially.
Got it.
So if you don't get what jerks what you're told jerks wants, then the game will end, basically. Or at least that's kind of not how I want the finalized version to be, because I don't want there to be so many fail states that you're just like constantly having to restart the game and go through the dialogue again.
Yeah, I mean that's just like a lesson from D&D. You have that like gradient, you know.
Right, yeah. And so like if you go in there and you don't have the proper thing that Jerks is looking for, then he tells you have to go get it first, right? And then you go get it, but then that leads to another thing that you got to do, which leads to another thing you got to do. All the while you got to do this balancing act of like not falling to 0 but not going to 200.
No, I like that, and like this is just a nice environment. It's very just the 3D side scrolling is very nice, and I like the idea that at any point, right, you can talk to anyone. And I'm hoping you kind of build that out where you're taking me to one person, go back down the street to talk to someone else.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out. I want there to be the two main dialogue options will be vomit them and give them a break.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of how DJ Vomit sees the world, man. He either vomits them or he gives them a break. And so that's how DJ Vomit will interact with everybody. So those will always be two.
Now, is this Salt Lake City?
I want it to take place in Salt Lake City. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it definitely should.
Yeah.
Yeah, this should be part of the whole Salt Lake City.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. I'm amazed at the things that one player did. Like, you did so many things that I never thought a player would do.
Really? Like what?
Like you clicked on Fucker Dobson before you went into the strip club. Like I was like, never in a million years will a player click on Fucker Dobson before they walk into the strip club.
Yeah, I just kind of clicked on the entryway because so I kind of learned to scan the environment with my cursor and click on something when something came up.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing I want to do is like have the like little things pop up. Like let's say like this truck, for example.
Yeah.
When you hover over you can right click the truck.
Yeah.
And it'll give you an examine option. So it's like, oh yeah, these are whatever model vehicles they're run by, like.
Yeah, a little flavor and then like a statement that, oh, I can't go past this.
Right, because I do have one at the beginning of the game where you try to go left instead of right, where he's like, that's not the way home.
Yeah, I did that like immediately.
Yeah, that was one that I figured was going to happen, was somebody would try to walk left because it seems like you're supposed to walk right. Because I tried to put like lights and shit like to the right,
Yeah, so there it is.
Yeah, I don't want that to be there. So there's a way to make it so that actions enable other actions. So I need to have this interaction enabled by you walking in the strip club. Gotcha. I wish I could show you guys the Unity project because like the amount of boxes and squares and little trigger zones.
Do you want to? You could share out your screen. I'll change the stream so it's just Discord, and I can you can share it through Discord. We can take a look at that. Oh, can you not go back?
No, not right now.
No.
Because I never expected anybody to walk past the strip club and not end the game.
Yeah, sure.
You might be able to select straight actually to go back. Try it again.
Let me try.
It might change the camera.
I guess I'm getting drugs.
Nah, ignored. Damn.
I want my drugs though.
Pretty quick fix, but
yeah.
Oh, and so
I like
the top
these
left.
guys.
Yeah, that's the next interaction I'm gonna write. Is these two cops.
Yeah.
But there's a timer in the top left corner too.
Yeah.
So when that timer reaches 20, the game ends. That's another thing that I plan to put in.
And do you have a story motivation as to why yet?
Yeah, so basically so DJ Vomit is effectively so hopelessly addicted to a particular drug that he absolutely has to get it 20 minutes after his shift ends at the radio station or he will die.
For sure. I mean, yeah, that's great. I could literally, he just walks out and is like, fuck, dude, if I don't get high in 20 minutes, I will literally die.
He's gonna die, yeah.
And then anyone who doesn't take it seriously, if 20 minutes goes by and they die, like, I would bust out laughing. That would be great.
Yeah, like, you don't believe me. Like, I actually wouldn't end the game, yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. But right now it's on 5 minutes. So you still have 15 minutes to finish the game. That's the other thing. I want it to be a really tight time constraint.
Yeah. Well, and that can add some replayability. If you have more than 20 minutes worth of content and conversation, it can make the game feel much longer and more involved than it actually is.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, the idea behind that too is that I want there to be like I the last thing I want is for
Mm-hmm.
this game to turn into that like um exhaust every dialogue option. Like
Mm-hmm.
I hate that in
Right.
games. It drives
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
nuts.
No, it's so it's so bad that
It's so bad. No, I hate
well,
it.
it's
So
one of those, I've done so many clever things. You have to see them all,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah.
and
And
that's not a good storytelling impulse. Like,
no.
all my cards are going to be on the table every time. That's
Yeah.
just a that's just a bad impulse.
Yeah, well, and this is exactly the problem that I see with stories in games is that they feel like they're tacked on, right? The
Mm-hmm.
story is not the game.
Right.
It's a tacked on feature of the game, like graphics, you know what I mean? So it's this problem that I see where it's like, well, I mean, the story is just that thing that you get when you buy the game, I guess. um, and so you can click through all the dialogue options so that you know, maybe get like a little bit of information. But if you want to make the game the story,
Yeah.
you have to retrain the way people will play it, because the natural impulse is to click every dialogue option. I mean, I watch Matt do it,
Yeah.
and so that's the natural inclination, is to click every dialogue option.
I think the
But
only
that
game I
has to be a fail state.
sorry, the only game I haven't been like afraid not to click every dialogue option has been Disco, right?
Right.
Disco. Yep.
And that's
Disco
because I'm
Elysium.
so confident in like what I'm committing to and the fact that you can't go back and that
Right.
every option is like equally valid and important
Right.
versus something like Mass Effect where I'm worried I'm going to miss something.
Right. Yeah, it's like you literally could like not get a quest if you don't.
Yeah.
Which, like, in this game I want that to be the case too, but I want that to be a conscious decision. It's like, well, maybe this guy could help me, but I'm at 195 out of 200 exasperation,
Yeah.
and I can't do this.
And making the game short enough where it wouldn't be that much of a burden to play through it again
Right.
is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right answer. Have you heard of a game called Minute? Minit? Okay, so it's
No, I don't think
like
so.
an old school top-down Zelda, but it's roguelike. And so each playthrough takes a minute. So you're exploring the overworld, you do whatever you can in a minute, and it saves your progress, and then you restart
Oh,
from
yeah,
point zero.
yeah. Uh-huh. Hmm.
So little like bites like that, like a 20-minute game with a 6 blocks, good amount of stuff and characters with simple goals and enough fail states that I would want to keep running it. I think you're really on the right track with like
Yep.
successful
No, I think,
design.
and when we've talked about that, the games that aren't, these 70-hour
Mm-hmm.
extravaganzas, right?
Yeah.
Because I love those, but you don't always have time. It's like deciding, okay, am I going to read, the Hawkline Monster or Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of depends, how much time do you have, and are you really going to commit the next 6 weeks of your leisure time to this one particular pursuit?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's like, I mean, I just can't even imagine. Like I think probably, so the last RPG I finished was Outer Worlds. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I finished it was because it was 20 hours,
Yeah.
which is in my mind reasonable. Like I was like, okay, that's probably my top end. Like I don't think I could, unless it's a super special game like Cyberpunk or something, a game that I've been waiting for like 10, 15 years, coming from my favorite developer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like there's
you
no
guys
fucking
are
way.
you guys are so hungry for this. I
Oh,
It's really been a great phenomenon in my life. I got my son
Mm-hmm.
the 2077 for his birthday, which was in
yeah,
early October.
Yeah.
And so he's been waiting literally 2 months, to be able to install this on his computer. And now
yeah,
today, the day is here, but he's figuring out like how long it's going to take to download the patch, and
Yep.
like,
yeah,
will we, let him eat dinner in his room so that
right,
can he get his last paper done for
right.
school,
That's a
before
good
this
one.
starts, so he can just like stay up all night and play this
Mm-hmm.
game. So tell me, I mean, not to take away from your game, Dylan. I mean,
Sure,
it
sure.
also is epic, and and groundbreaking.
Thank you.
But I mean, just for me, and maybe everybody who would ever tune into this Twitch, if anybody ever does, would not be interested in this. But for me, as kind of an older guy who this is. I mean, I'm interested in this game, but I'm not alive for this game
Yeah.
in the way people I know and love and respect are.
I think
Right.
I might be in between you, Pinckney, and Dylan, actually. So I might be able to bridge a little of this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm intrigued to hear like
Yeah,
why this game, given that it seems like there are 10 amazing games a day. Like it's
yeah,
this miraculous golden time,
yeah.
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
Well, here the
No matter
start
what
is
you
that
want to
it's
do.
CD Projekt Red. Like after The Witcher, their series, they're tackling this totally different franchise. They have the original creator of the tabletop game. He was heavily involved in the development. And CD Projekt has a great track record of polish, of writing. Um, and so, I mean, not only are people excited for them to make another game, but also just the genre, the franchise itself of like cyberpunk. Like, there
Yeah.
hasn't been a serious sci-fi adjacent RPG aside from like Mass
And
Effect, that's Outer Worlds or something.
and how actually open world is it, or do you imagine it will be? Like,
So I've been holding off
are
from
you go live a
reviews.
life in it? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's way
Yeah.
overhyped. This
Yeah.
is actually the worry I have for Cyberpunk, because
Yeah.
in the next week you're gonna see it. Like everybody that's been talking about this game like it's the Messiah, like it's the
Yeah.
second, it's the second coming of Christ. This game is gonna get so much backlash.
Mm-hmm. I've been seeing
Because,
it already. The reviews, well, okay, I've stayed away from reviews, but I have ventured into the toxic quagmire that is the Steam community page for Cyberpunk. And not only are people complaining about the libs getting a hold of games, which, Jesus
I hate it
Christ,
when the libs get a hold of games.
isn't
yeah.
it just the worst? But people have been commenting that
libertarians, because they are horrible.
Yeah. Right.
people have been complaining about reviews. Developer early copies have been like pre-patch, have had issues running, and been saying that the game doesn't live up to it. It's not as like incredible and involved as people are imagining. And
Well,
I don't
this
know
is the
what they
thing
were
that
imagining.
just drives me crazy. This is the problem when your medium's
Yeah.
primary demographic is 14-year-old boys. Like
Yeah.
when this is your primary demographic,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I mean, we're about to see Michael Jordan caught gambling levels
Mm-hmm.
of backlash
Mm-hmm.
in the gaming community, because people, for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason people think that game developers can do more than they can. Like,
Well, it's because they've never made a game and they don't see game developers or game studios as human beings. And that's kind of by design.
Unless they get to talk shit about the game developing company who's been overworking their employees. Like, it's just nonsense. Like, I there's nothing in this world that I hate more than the gaming community. I hate the gaming community. I think they're racist, sexist, fucking assholes. But
I'm sure this is really going to be a popular Twitch stream now.
absolutely,
We have 0 girls.
Neophyte Studios is taking a stance.
I'm DJ Vomit.
We are
I'm vomiting 'em,
anti-gamer.
baby. I'm vomiting them. But so basically, I think the reason for why this game stands out to me so much is because CD Projekt Red, among all of the game developers I've ever played, they seem to understand story the best. And when I say story, I mean classical narrative structure.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Because that kind of takes us back to our raison d'etre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since I try to bring my French chops into this every time I can. But right is that really we're here to talk about story,
right.
Mhm.
and not really games. And I mean, game story, like it's a very are they the same thing? Are they different? Are they at odds?
Yeah.
Can they be
Right.
allied?
Yeah.
And can we tell classic stories in this way, or will it always just be games? Like, does it
Right.
have to be trivial? And so is it your belief that this is a non-trivial narrative, that you're going to be able
Yeah.
to undertake non-trivial narratives, like emotionally affecting narratives that will move and change you in the way that we hope literature does, and film and theater, right?
Yeah.
That you'll be
Hmm.
able to
I've
engage with character and story
yeah.
in such a way that it alters. It doesn't just entertain you, but it alters you. So,
I think so. Although I
Yeah.
will say openly that I don't think it will be to the degree that Disco was.
No, I've been just from early previews. I've been seeing a mix. I've seen some reviewers say that the sort of adult, deep, intense thematic content is used a little bit more for show than substance. That they get into these cyberpunk themes, but they don't fully drive home a really resonant point with it, and it's used a little
so
bit
it's
for
not
shock and
Blade Runner,
edge.
right?
Hmm?
Yeah, but
Right.
also
Because Blade Runner has the attraction of that cyberpunk world,
Yeah.
right? And like, oh, I'm living in the future, and there's neon, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's wearing, plastic clothes, and all the things we love. And then, but also, of course, it's about God. Yes,
Yep.
right.
who is your father?
Literally.
Who is
Yeah.
your creator? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be considered less than human? What does it
Mm-hmm.
mean to actually be superior to humans in so many ways and yet be subject to them? And what does it mean not to be able to extend your life?
Yeah.
Those are the things we want, literature to deal with. Yeah.
Right.
And some games do, and I think Disco does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's sort of, and it gets at, like, what sort of life do you want to live? And the life I chose to live in Disco took me very different places from the lives you both chose to
Right.
live in Disco, just as your lives were different from each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And because, I mean, the thing about, I was talking to a novelist who's doing a developmental edit for a publisher with a novelist, and she just had this character, and I was like, and he's a nice kid, and he's just like slaughtered this whole. It's a post-apocalyptic novel, and
Mm-hmm.
his neighborhood, like the neighborhood where he lived, is a great story. Where he lived, like, before the it was basically a big EMP,
Yeah.
right? So before the electricity went away, that neighborhood kind of, they were lucky. Like, they had a lady who was a hoarder who kept all this stuff, and so she had gasoline and food, and, like, they've done pretty well, and they're considered, like, rich, fat, by all the
Right.
predators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They literally go to war with another nearby neighborhood,
Yeah.
right? That didn't fare so well, and where the kids are skinny, and like are child soldiers with AK-47s and stuff. And so these kind of nice people who think of themselves as nice, because they're relatively prosperous, end up just massacring this rival neighborhood of
Yeah.
poor
Right.
people, right? And to
Yeah.
preserve their way of life. And it's great. And this kid, and it's like this 18-year-old kid who ends up leading this neighborhood because he's like the chosen one of his grandmother who dies. She's the woman who hoarded all this stuff. And, like, after, there's all this slaughter and stuff, he's just like, oh, like, I'll never do that again, kind of thing. And I said,
Yeah.
if he's just good because he's good,
Mm-hmm.
that's not interesting, right? Like, he has to be good. He has to see that this is a way he could go, right? And,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
being a warlord. And he's an 18-year-old boy. Like, when I was 18, if you'd given me the chance to machine gun and burn down a neighborhood, like, their women or whatever, like, I'd have been totally down with it. I mean, like, being, everybody's like, oh, child soldiers. I'm like, if I was 11 years old and you said, take an AK-47, go out with these badass adults and kill people they tell you are your enemy,
Yeah.
Right.
Pinckney.
that's like the best thing that could have happened to me. I had to go to fucking prep school, man. I could have been a child soldier. Nobody gave me an AK-47 anyway.
You tell
Yeah.
me
But it just
stories
kind of,
like
like,
that, and then you tell me you
he has
believe in
to choose
Mothman, and it
story,
all.
right? He has to choose. He has to see that he could be the wicked thing, and see the pleasures of it and
Mm-hmm.
feel the pleasures of it, and then choose to be the other thing. That if he's just like a default good guy who's like, oh, I did a terrible thing and it's just terrible and I never want to do it again. There's no like we don't need to watch that, right? Because
Right.
that's it would have happened no matter what had happened. But
Yeah.
he has to be presented with a choice, and it has to be a plausible choice
Right. Right. Yeah.
for the story to work. And we have to imagine a whole other story if he'd made the other choice, and it has to be just as good a story, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just this straw man. It's just like, well, I could choose something good, or I could choose something stupid and evil, and
Right. Yeah.
that's not a choice, right? Like,
Yeah.
So anyway,
And that's where games usually are, right? It's
yes,
that
exactly. That's what
straw
I'm
man.
saying.
That's
Right,
a very good.
exactly. In games, there's not really a choice. Like you don't choose. Oh, I'm going to go the aggressive route
Mm-hmm.
rather than the apologetic route, right? Or
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to proposition this woman, right? Or even in something like, which I haven't gotten very far into, but I'm eager to play it because I think I'm really seeing the visual novel I want to do during this sabbatical. Like
Um,
you guys, I'm so eager to get you some stuff and ask you to help me with some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and it is not PG, man. We'll be lucky if we can keep it at a hard R.
hey, that's fine. No worries.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Vomit them, baby. Vomit them.
No, vomit them all the way. Um, but like it gave me that choice, that there was this sort of young girl, like it's not clear how old she is, and she's like to the protagonist, I'm there to see this woman to kind of pursue this, I'm a private detective kind of guy, and I'm gonna do this mystery, and this sort of very attractive girl's like, oh, follow me for a good time kind of thing, and I'm like, okay. Like, and it's not like, well, I get to do that and this.
Right. Based on my charisma stat.
Yeah.
Or that, right. And I'm like, oh, like I can either sort of, follow the sex scene, or I can do the thing I actually came there to do.
Yeah.
And they're both perfectly reasonable choices within the thing. You know what I mean? Like I actually had to decide to go do my job.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
not exactly that, right? But I mean that's the same way we have to live our lives. Yeah, is
Right.
Sure.
you have a million choices, and every choice you make obviates the other, million minus one choices, or
Right.
seems might, right? And so that's why something like what you're working on, Dylan, and the way disco works, like it's really important to understand that you don't just build a railroad and then provide these kind of like straw man choices along the way that
Right.
aren't significant, because you can't.
Yeah.
That's not telling a story. That's just a game, or a. It's not even really a game exactly.
No, like you said,
Right.
it's literally just being on a railroad.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like a roller coaster ride.
But,
Yeah.
but with the appearance, like I don't mind a rail shooter. Like if you just put me on VR and I'm on a rail and I've got
Mm-hmm.
quad 50s, that's a game I really want to build. By the way, where I have like quad 50 caliber machine guns, those aircraft, anti-aircraft
Right. Yeah.
things.
We can make a House of the Dead clone on the back of like a Humvee.
Fine by me, man.
Fucking
As
love
long as
this
I've got
game.
those quad 50s, I'll be happy. But but like so, as long as you say it's a rail shooter, I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't present it as though I'm going to have choices, and then make the choices you give
Right.
me
Yeah.
either perfectly parallel so that I can do them all,
Mm-hmm.
or really do present me with like, here's an attractive thing that it would be interesting to do, but if you want to do that, you're going to have to play the game another time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Not
I'm
to do
looking
that
forward to
moment, you
seeing.
don't get it.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking forward to seeing how close Cyberpunk gets to that, and how far it is from just being like Fallout or Mass Effect. Where
Yeah.
those
I don't
choices
know.
don't
I mean,
matter.
I've reserved judgment at this point because I just don't. I just don't trust. I don't think that the same game story lexicon is there anymore.
Sure.
I just don't think it's there. So for example, I started watching a YouTube channel called, and it's long defunct now, but
Mhm.
there's this brilliant guy. His name is Mr. B Tongue,
Okay.
and he talks about he talks about RPG mechanics. He talks about narrative in games, and he talks about kind of what's happened and what's changed. And the thing that's super interesting is that he talks about the early Fallout games or the early Planescape game,
Yeah.
or and he talks about those games as these benchmark narrative structures for gaming that have been abandoned because
No, and I can swear to that because
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
as impressive as the Fallout games are, as much as I like them, as much as Fallout 4 VR is a mind
Mm-hmm.
blowing, immersive experience,
It
it
doesn't
is
hold up
not as good a
compared.
story.
Yeah.
right,
I mean, I really felt like I was in the desert and trying to figure out how to survive when I
right,
played that first Fallout game.
Yeah.
right,
You know,
yeah,
and I was discovering everything. You
right,
know what I mean?
The
Like
most
now when
yeah.
you encounter the super mutant, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, it's another super mutant. I'll just burn him down with my minigun. But I mean, I remember when I was like, there are fucking super mutants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean,
yes,
they're partly just naive. You know, we lived in a naive world. It was the first iteration of that game, but they aren't making new discoveries like that in Fallout.
right,
Right? They're just they're going back to the greatest hits and making them graphically more interesting and
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But no, it
yeah,
was a terrific story. I mean, I
right,
remember going through that and
yeah,
and like when my dog died,
Yeah.
just being like, oh my god, like my dog
Now
died.
you're
And
actually
right,
the
alone.
graphics were nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
it was that flat pixel
yeah,
bullshit that none of us would pay any attention to now. But
So the
it was a
most recent kind of example of a game that did move forward that I can possibly think of are the Knights of Republic games. The way they worked
yeah.
with light side, dark side, that there was no simple good or evil. You're really significantly role playing and it impacts the world in a
Yeah.
distinctive way. But
See, the
since
thing that okay,
then,
but this I agree with you. I think that's really cool, and Mass Effect tries to do this too with like the Paragon Renegade and shit.
but
But
that
the
ends
thing,
up, ah,
yeah, but the problem is the blue and the red. Like
yes,
you can't say
yes,
something. You can't
sure,
say something is morally ambiguous if
yeah,
one of them is red and the other one is blue.
yeah, yeah,
Synesthesia will not allow it, right?
yeah,
But the thing that the old Fallout games did that is so interesting is they did not tell you the consequences of your actions.
mm,
Like you can't if you can see the consequence of, especially like in my game you have to see it because the exasperation meter is like literally the
but
game.
that's a
But like
personal effect, not any indication of
right,
morality.
right. And so like the stories aren't morality tests. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing that people are getting wrong is they think that the story needs to be a morality test. It's like MFA fiction that thinks that the protagonist needs to learn a lesson.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And
sure,
that the writer is the one who's going to teach him the fucking lesson.
mm-hmm.
right,
And
and that the reader will learn the lesson that the character learns, or the leader or the reader will agree with the writer that the character needed to learn that lesson.
right, it's like, yeah, great, thanks for that, writer.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
it's
the yeah, it's really annoying. And but the thing, okay, so to Mr. B Tongue, to just jump back to that real quick, and
mm-hmm.
then I'm sorry, Matt, I totally cut you off, but
No, it's
it
fine.
just it's inspired me.
Yeah,
So what he says is interesting, or what blew his mind about the old Fallout games was early on in a Fallout game, in the early ones, you leave the vault and then you come to some people and they ask you questions about where you're from and what, oh, why are you dressed funny? And
yeah,
you're like, well, I'm from this vault. And then that was it didn't say like, oh, you shouldn't have said that your red meter went up, and now, but later in the game, if you go back to your vault, it's been looted and your family's murdered, right? And you're like, fuck, oh my god, I said that to that lady. I
yeah,
told them where I live. He said that when he played that 12 years later, when he played Fallout 4, he was still so scared to tell people where he came from because of the early game, even though that wasn't in the new Fallouts.
yeah.
no,
That's
but I mean that's
fantastic.
right? Like, and that's the way a good story changes
Yeah,
Right.
and it does. I mean, as the most basic definition, or one of the a basic definition of story is a journey from innocence to experience, right? And those early
Right.
Fallouts were really like that. Like you were like a baby
yeah,
out in this world. I mean, and you all you had was your little linen suit, and I mean, like, no, that's, uh, uh, no, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's something that only games can do. I think, like,
yeah.
because you're the one who made the choice to do that.
Well, which is invitation, right? And yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with everything you're saying about Fallout, because I'm remembering now. I played it only a few years back. It was like 99 cents on like GOG or something, right? So I picked it up because I'm like, of course I want to see this. And yeah, you walk out of the vault kind of same as you do with Fallout 3, with like a pistol with 10 bullets and maybe a stick. And your overseer says, "Hey, our water purification is dying. Go find us a new one. Try, just do it." And you just walk out into a cave and rats start attacking you, and that's it. That's literally all you have. There's nothing there. And so you really have that genuine sense of discovery and like self-determination, right? Where Fallout 3, you have all of this characterization. It's really a story about your dad. You have towns with really distinct morality, right? The Tenpenny Tower Megaton decision. Nobody chooses Tenpenny Tower. Like, Fallout 1 was not like that at all.
No. Well, and same with Planescape. I mean, like, Planescape Torment is largely considered the best, the most well-written game ever made, right? It's considered like the pinnacle paragon work of video game literature.
Yeah.
And like the thing that's really interesting about Planescape is that it is based on like a Dungeons and Dragons RPG, but they just happen to hire like some crazy like weirdo to write the game, right? And so this crazy weirdo was like, well, I want to train everybody that this is not an RPG. This is not an action RPG. You do not fight people. And so like you get the option to like kill these zombies at the beginning, but they talk to you and they're nice, you know, like they're not like evil. And then as you go through, you're like you're constantly like fighting this instinct to like stab these zombies because you're like, well, I always stab zombies. What? And they're just like peaceful. They don't care, you know. And then that builds into the narrative because you're a crazy serial killer man who's been murdering people for generations and eons, and you're coming to terms with it. Like they build it into the first interaction in the game, right?
Yeah. And so, like, out the gate, it's just fucking metatextual that you, as a video game player, need to unlearn that behavior as the character, and that's really fun.
The VR game Accounting.
Yeah.
Right. You know, where I mean, they don't give you choices, which is a problem with it, but I understand it. I mean, they're just telling an on-rails story. At the same time, the facility with which I remember like cutting open the king, who was really nice to me, he was like, "Oh, glad you're here. Get alone, and now I have someone to talk to." And you see, like, there's this big mark down his belly that says "cut here," and there's a knife, you know. And so, what are you gonna do? Clearly, you're just gonna butcher this, you know, gelatinous knife.
Just because video game parameters.
Because it's a thing you need to get to the next level.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
It's like complete instrumentality. Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, just like absolutely transactional. I would like to talk to you. You seem nice, but your heart is something I need to move forward in this game.
Right, yeah.
Butcher you, and they do, like, there's just blood everywhere. All his organs come falling out. Like, it's VR, so it's pretty in your face. You know, but you're just like, well, this is what I do in this game, I guess. And it, you know, it's interesting. It was like my students in honors, right? We would play Among Us. Like, you know, you understand this system of justice. I said I was keeping track. You ejected, right, more innocent people than you ejected imposters, and you ejected more people total than the imposters killed. So just as a sort of net good, you are like you know, if I were in this world, I would have to be more careful of you than of the imposters.
Right. Yeah.
And they're just like, well, it doesn't matter. It's just a game. And I'm like, well, okay. So you're saying like you would be different from this if you were actually faced with you wouldn't resort to mob violence if it were serious? Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding? That's not the history. The history of humanity is the minute things get serious, everybody says, "Oh, well, you're a bunch of witches," and they burn. They're like, "Oh, the problem is the Jews." You know, it's like you wouldn't do less if it were serious. You'd do it more. You
Yeah.
know, and they're
Right.
like, well, what else can you do? Like, that's, that's the game. I was like, well, you could just do your tasks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you literally have that choice in the game. Does anybody ever do that? No. I may be the only person who ever played Among Us just trying to do my fucking job. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, and no, if you had a group of people all together trying to play Among Us, what's stopping them from organizing and going room by room for everyone to complete their tasks?
right, exactly.
Safely.
You just like that.
Yeah.
And everybody trying to figure out and and trying to blame their their people they don't like and stuff like that. You could make a life on that shit.
Yeah.
I may
Right.
think, right? Or if the game were built right, you'd be able to make a life on that shit. You would be able to. There would be some viable other choice,
Yeah.
Right.
The
Yeah.
thing is, like, the game is built to make you a mom
Yeah.
who.
Right.
I mean, I kind of like that. Although the thing I dislike is, you see very few people going like, "Oh, well, that's really bad." Like, just like willy nilly without any organization or instruction,
Mhm.
we will organize ourselves into a mob, and we will just kill anybody who seems slightly weird to us on the off chance that they might be.
Yeah, remotely suspicious. Yeah, I think. I mean, I've actually never played Among Us, so I have a question.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a question about it.
Yeah.
Is there a failure state for ejecting too many innocent people?
Yes. If you eject everyone except the imposter, you lose.
Oh well, that's not what I mean. I mean like
Yeah.
No. It's not like, oh, you killed 3 out of 7, or you just killed 4 out of 7. That's too
Mhm.
many. No.
yeah,
No.
that's
You
see that to me
kill-
is wrong. Like that game should definitely be if you've ejected two innocent people, the imposters win.
I don't think it should stop you, but I do think it should declare you foul.
Right. Yeah.
It should feel like you understand at this point you're the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is no consequence.
Yeah.
Figure something else out, because you're killing more. Well, the consequence should be the consequence to your conscience.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the consequence should be the realization, an agnoresis, right? Since
Yeah.
we're theoretically an educational stream. Right?
Theoretically.
An agnoresis is the self-revelation. And at the end, it should go like, you killed more innocent people than you killed imposters. And second of all, you, like you, and you like you're bad. Like you just killed.
So how do you gamify that though? If we keep it,
The New York City Police Department a few years ago.
Yeah.
There was a guy who, well, there are many cases of this, but there was a guy who worked in a store in the first floor, somewhere low in the Empire State Building, and he got into
Okay.
an argument with his boss, and he went home and got a gun, a revolver, and came back to shoot his boss. And I guess they knew he was coming, so the cops were kind of waiting for him. And he pulled the gun out in front of the Empire State Building, and the cops opened up on him, and they shot 9 people around him. Right?
well, that just doesn't surprise me knowing cops.
No, not at all. But I mean, but think about that, right? That means that if I, as a concealed carry permit holder,
Yeah.
right, if I had been there, I'd have been inclined to start taking out cops.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Sure.
they're clearly doing way more damage than, I mean, this guy with his revolver could have only taken out 6.
Yeah.
Right?
If he's perfect.
Nailing people right and left, and they're hitting him some, but they're all, and they didn't even kill him. And I'm like, what? In what way did you improve this situation? Clearly, you just turned this into a bloodbath.
Well,
Like,
sure, and tying that back to Among Us,
It's, anyway.
tying that back to Among Us, right? Yeah. If
I don't know. I don't have to. It's just that story just irks me.
no, because no, that's the perfect example. Like you were saying, if your body count in this game is higher than the monster, right? That
You're
would be
the monster.
yeah,
Right.
like and so like you're watching like John Carpenter's The Thing, right? And it changes the narrative if unambiguously they killed all those people, and the monster only took out one person, right? And if it's still the same ambiguous ending, but fucking our protagonist knows he killed exclusively innocent people, like that completely changes that story. So
Yeah,
I think that's important. I do.
yeah, and and at some point, like the game, maybe Dylan, what the game should do is after you murder a bunch of innocent people, the game should just go, "Well, you're the imposter now. Like you
Right.
have irretrievably left behind,
Or
like
another
Yeah.
here it is. Here's the idea. Another option gets added to the imposter's repertoire to report the rest of the crew back to some bigger controlling entity, like whoever sent these people in space, a corporation, like, right, a god entity that holds them accountable for ejecting a bunch of crew members. And that can be,
Right.
that's another victory state for the imposter.
Right. Something like that. Yeah, just
Yeah.
more consequences. That's all I want. Like, to just bring this back around to game mechanics as a general discussion, like I I want more consequence in game mechanics, in ludological
Yeah.
narrative. You know what I mean? And so
there
what
are
I
consequences, or I mean, but the consequences of choice, right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, you can choose what you think is good, and it can have bad consequences, right? I
Right,
mean,
sure. In
and
fact, I think when you make good choices, it should have horrible consequences.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. But and so the choice is right whether to be good for the sake of being good or being good because it's transactionally useful.
Well, yeah,
Right.
there you
Yeah.
go. And like with,
A moral dimension
mhm.
into games, and I agree that games are uniquely suited to uh, sort of enact those kinds of choices because in
Yeah.
literature you're following the choices of the protagonist,
Yeah.
right? And and you can get emotionally involved with the protagonist and stuff like that, but the implications making that decision yourself of just being too friendly
Yeah.
and getting your whole family killed is a could be a very big deal.
And
Right.
Disco does a very good job of that. Like I tried to go through that game as a sincere idea of what my morality is, right? Taking responsibility for my actions, believing in equality and social justice, and at great personal cost at every single turn. I became like a self-loathing monster because I was taking responsibility for a lifetime of being a jackass, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
right, that's not like an explicit good or bad, right? But there are consequences.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
really what it is. It's internal and external consequences being interesting and meaningful.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Interesting and meaningful. That's precisely right. That it isn't this kind of rote. If I make the good choice, the good thing will happen. If I make the bad choice, the bad thing
If
will
I
happen.
save all the little sisters in BioShock, I'll get more plasmids now. But if I harvest them, I'll get more plasmids later.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but exactly. But like, I don't. All I can do is act on my convictions,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the law of unintended consequences and the infinite complexity of the universe, I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? There are many things that I thought were good that later, were revealed to have been selfish.
And
And
strong characters helps with that. Like Dylan, all of your characters are already very well defined, even though I don't understand the world. And same with Disco, right? That's what makes those choices
Right.
interesting.
when they've got and they've got those great names, and they make potent statements. They're not
Right.
just waiting for you to show up. They're doing their jobs, and when you show up, it's kind of hassle to deal with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that.
DJ Vamos just kind of
Yeah,
walking
wait a
down.
minute.
He's like, dude, do not come into my strip club and make trouble. Like,
I think
yeah,
that's what I really I couldn't pin it down, but that is what I was really liking about your game here, Dylan, was yeah, that you are a burden on every single person. Like they
everybody
have
like
lived
last
lives.
time I trusted you, you fucked me over.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
the
Yeah.
like, I'm a celebrity. They're like, I don't know, give us money.
yeah, it's
They
it's
don't.
it's
They don't
great.
pretend to know who you are.
Right.
Good. Well, so is next week going to be? Are you guys going to educate me um, about 2077?
I think
Yes.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I
We'll
think it's a
come
good
in and we'll bring our critique of Cyberpunk's narrative.
Yeah. No, I would love to kind of do like early deep dive, maybe spoilery
Mm-hmm.
type discussions.
Because we get spoiler in the title, right?
Yeah, just like don't watch if you don't want spoilers, and
Right.
we'll just kind of go like first impressions of a game after 1 week of playing.
And we can discuss over some gameplay. We'll put it in the Cyberpunk
Yeah,
category.
and I
Yeah.
kind of want to be like, I want to hear the stories of the stories you all made up.
Absolutely.
Right.
For my
I'm
son.
sure in a week we'll be able to hit
Sure.
a point where we can just futz around the city for an hour without getting into anything major, just as a
Right.
good background.
I'm looking forward to it. Like, when Dylan comes in and goes, I decided to become a pimp.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I decided to become a DJ.
Yeah.
DJ Vomit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm really excited about that.
Well, cool. 1 hour. 1 hour, and then reality stops, and then I'll see you all again in a week.
But one sec, just before we go, I
Yeah.
have a personal request. Will you two go back? Well, I mean, I guess Matt already played it, but would you guys mind going back and playing through that and telling me where I should diverge and do different stuff? Because
Most
I
definitely.
just want impressions. Like, I just want like
Yeah.
when you're playing a game, where did you want to go? Like, did you want to turn left? Did you want to
Mhm.
did you want to go in that alley? What did you want to find back there? That kind of thing.
Yeah, 1000%. We'll do.
Strip club. Like, I
Yeah.
was really irritated that.
Yeah. The reason why you can't go in the strip club is because I haven't gotten the animations to work yet. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I just, like ever since Duke Nukem, I used to play Duke Nukem. This is how advanced I was. A friend of my best
God.
friend got DSVR modems, right? Digital. What was it? Digital something. Digital simultaneous voice and or DSVD modems. Digital simultaneous voice and data. So we
Okay.
could talk on the phone, right? Like we would call each other, and we could talk on the phone, and we could play the game at the same time.
That's incredible.
It's like Discord.
And the
Yeah.
rest of the band. And we played games like Duke Nukem, and like we would just hang out in the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just like, okay, here we are. This is our life now, and it's just like a three cell animation of some cartoon girl. Yeah, exactly. But you're like, yeah, I live in West Virginia. This is the best it's gonna happen. So, yeah, I'm all about like strip clubs in games. I think that's an insufficiently exploited.
Well, I'm sure Cyberpunk 27 will
and some strip
thoroughly exploit
clubs.
strip
I don't know
clubs.
if anybody has the guts to do a strip club. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Well, I know one of the gangs in 2077, like it's in the timeline of like the tabletop role playing game. It's like a bit of a jump ahead, and so I know one of the gangs is like a group of sex workers that have all banded together, and so that is definitely a group whose story I'm interested in.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to hear what stories you kind of are able to write within this framework.
Yeah.
Because that's what interests me about games is like, do you come out of it with a good story that feels like your story?
Yeah,
Right,
and
yeah.
hopefully Dylan and I will have divergent experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what Disco delivers in Spain.
Mhm.
So for
It's its best selling point. Yeah.
Yes.
Disco is now the kind of hallmark for for being able to play as yourself or as the self you would wish to be in.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Well, good
Cool, yeah.
deal.
Good stream.
That's the stream. See y'all later.
Later.
Bye.